I am so excited to introduce you to Arthur Hopkins. My name is Lisbeth Newton. You're on Let's Talk on Houston City Beat. Arthur, welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you, Lisbeth. I'm so happy to be here.
So we connected a few weeks ago through, I believe it was through the Facebook Houston City Beat community group. And what I love the most about what you do, Arthur, is that you teach people what your tagline is. You're enthusiastic advocate, and you teach people that come into your space about growing themselves, growing their money, and growing their community. Why are these three elements so important for anyone out there to get to the next level, whatever that is for them?
Or any level for that matter, right? It's like I think those particular things point to everything else. A lot of us, let's talk about the money thing right off the bat, and that's usually like an elephant in the room type of a topic. But I've learned myself over the years lately that it's like, no, we need to talk about that and bring it out and where we at with that, because a lot of us have a heart to help, a heart to serve, a heart to grow, not just ourselves, but bring other people with us. You ask almost anybody, it's like, what would you like to do if you could do anything in your life? And the answer, almost like 9 times out of 10, I want to help others. And it's like, well, sure. And how are we going to do that? And let's face it, in this world we live in, money makes the world go round. And it's you in a better place to help others and things like that. And I am really enthusiastic about this stuff. Maybe I could start with my background story just a little bit. Would that be all right?
That would be great. That was what I was going
Awesome.
to ask you.
Awesome.
How did you get into this as a career? What was that that thing that shifted in your life to get you on this path?
Yeah, well, it wasn't planned or, or anything at first. I've kind of fallen backwards into it, but there's an adage that always makes me laugh. Say, if you want to make God laugh, make plans. And anyway, so it's been an interesting pivot for many years. But I'll give a brief thumbnail sketch of where I came from. It's a tale of a tragic childhood, let's say, full of abuse and neglect and things like that, which led me to some very bad habits. At about age 12, I was a drug addict for years and years and years, and fell in with the wrong crowd. And so for the early years of my life, I experienced everything that you probably shouldn't do and made all the wrong decisions. And it took me to a really um, not just a dark place and a dangerous place and all that, but it literally almost took my life. Let's put it that way, in almost every way possible. I mean, being in the wrong environment, which was very dangerous, but also I by the end of it, it it affected my mental health, it affected my physical health, my spiritual health, not even there to speak of, and all of these things. Um, and then I came so close to death's doorstep, let's say. I was really faced with a simple choice. Do I want to live, or do I want to die? Okay. And it's like, well, I want to live. And making that choice really set me on a path of getting up and out of it. And there was a moment, and I did. It was a real hard struggle because addiction is hard to explain to people that haven't experienced, but it's really just one of those. Speaking of mindset, it might be the total wrong mindset to have. And once you're tissue dependent and in there, it's really difficult to overcome. In fact, I think the numbers are pretty bleak. It's less than 2% of people that even try to get out of it, and that actually end up quitting and turning their lives around. So I consider myself like a lottery winner, that I fall into that 1.6% or something like that, that not only survived and turned their life around, but I've literally thrived since then. And it is all about mindset. Okay. Now, that being said, I couldn't have done it without help and the things that without external sources and things like that. But it's really the focus and my own drive that keeps me there. Does that make sense? It's like we can be surrounded by the greatest people, mentors and things like that, but if we don't decide to change, then well, nothing's going to happen. So that's the background of it. And then, once I turned my life around and all that, I went back into my career as that was in assisted living communities and things like that. But if we fast forward, it's just as I share my story, and I've gotten really excited. So you can imagine that I never really quite evolved or developed, let's say, the correct way, right? My entire childhood and as a young man and even a middle-aged man was just, it was askew, let's say. And so, since I turned my life around, you might say I've been experiencing life as it should be lived since my mid 30s, and I love it. It's like every day to me is crystal clear, and it's an adventure, and I'm doing things I've never done before. And it's been decades now since I turned around and everything, but I try to maintain, you might say, that childhood curiosity, and the enthusiasm and lust for life, because I'm very fortunate that I'm here. So that's kind of the background story. And then it's a series of, I don't know, lots of career things and meeting people and things like that have kind of steered me to where I am right now. Like, well, right when we met, Elizabeth, it's like, I'm on the stage now speaking about stuff, and that was never my plan. In fact, I was asked to do it. It wasn't even a goal, or it wasn't even on my radar. But it's turning out to be awesome, and I'm getting. And I think the funnest, most fulfilling part of that is that we all have some kind of a story. I'm sure you've got things that you could talk about that affected you and the person you are, and maybe helped lead to your success and everything else. And somebody out there probably needs to hear that, because if we all have a story, we all have an audience, right? At least one person that could relate to this, I don't know, bald-headed white guy from California, or something. And
Yeah.
in fact, I have experienced some things where, whether it's in business, like we say, finances, or personal habits and things like that, I have experienced this wonderful, um, um, what would you say is like my story, or it's helped people. Let me put it that way. So
Yeah.
it's been a wonderful ride, and I'm just enjoying it as we go.
So I've got questions that I would love to ask you. If any of
Awesome.
these questions that I ask you, you don't want to answer, not an issue. Just tell me, hey, Liz, I don't want to answer.
Sure.
I won't. My feelings won't get hurt or anything. Uh,
Okay.
let's go back to your childhood for a minute
Mhm.
here. Did you have siblings, or were you the only child?
I'm the oldest of three.
The oldest of three. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to ask you that is because there have been, in situations where you have a childhood that was not ideal, that was filled with chaos and things that happened that were not good things to have happen to you, and you have siblings, there's always some siblings that come out of it and they thrive, and then there's siblings that don't. Did all of you come out of this as better individuals, or do some of your siblings still struggle with the patterns of the past?
That's a really good question. And I could say, out of the three of us, so there's myself, I have a younger sister, and the youngest is my brother. Okay. And yeah, so if you lined us up side by side, yeah, I probably struggle the most, as I've outlined, as far as straight out the gate. There were, it's different types of struggles, like each in our own way. You might say, would just look for complete and total escape. Just let me out of here, and I left. In fact, I left home at 15 and things like that. My sister, she coped in different ways and joined the military. My younger brother, he in his own way, just focused completely on career and work, and has a fantastic, wonderful career in CGI, as a matter of fact. But it's interesting now as adults, and we compare notes and we talk and things. It's like, yeah, it's affected us all really deeply. But the quick answer to your question is it affected all of us, but the way we dealt with it as children and young adults was quite different.
At what point did you go back to your Arthur as a child and tell him that he was loved? Was that what you struggled with? That you went through all these things, and as a child you don't understand that you're around adults that are broken themselves, and that's
Yeah.
why this is happening to you. But as a child you don't understand that. At what point did you hug little Arthur and say, you know what, it's okay, and you are loved and you are worthy?
The quick answer is very recently, as a matter of fact. So if we go to the day that I decided to change my habits and get clean, that was in 2003. It's been almost 21 years, and but that and getting into recovery, and I was doing lots of things and self-development and discovering myself and learning and growing. My approach at the time was about childhood. It's like, well, and I don't feel at the time that it might go to your point that, yeah, it was just our normal. And I was still processing that. I mean, we don't know what normal is when we're that young. I mean, our life is our life. And maybe everybody's life is like this. We don't know. But my journey, I don't feel like I wasn't consciously avoiding it, but I kind of just had this mindset of like, well, it was a long time ago. I'm an adult now. Let's move forward. I can grow from here. And I did some fantastic things. But I gotta say, about 2.5 years ago, it there was things that were still gnawing inside of me, and let me cutting right to the chase is like, oh, I do need to look at this childhood stuff, like you say, the inner child and things. So when did I do that? About 2.5 years ago is when that first became really aware of it. And I would say maybe a year ago, it's been that recent that I've
Mhm.
actually done that real deep, go back to childhood, embrace the young Arthur inside type of work. And it's been phenomenal. I got to say, it's like I've made strides these 21 years, but this was like a trampoline to a whole nother level.
Yeah,
Great
that's
question. Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. So tell me about how you help people surpass or break through their money, their money barrier, their money blocks.
Exactly what we're doing right now, talking
Yeah.
about it. Like you've got questions, you're pulling them out of my head. It's like, let's talk
Mhm.
about this. I guess the key, of course, is in a comfortable and a safe environment with people that you trust and all those kinds of things. I tend to have a talent, I guess, for meeting people where they are. My experiences are vast and many, but we can all relate in general, right, to say bad experiences, trauma, tragedies, or even personal hangups, character defects, flaws. Yours might be totally different than mine, but they're there, and we can at least relate on that level. It's like, well, let's talk about it and see what's going on, and let's get it up and out into the open, and then that itself is wonderfully therapeutic for a lot of people, including myself. But then it's about really like, well, let's plot a course from here. What's next? How can we, how is this in the way? What can we do to overcome and adapt and not avoid, but like I say, process all these things and at the same time move into the direction that we want to go? What are our dreams? See, that's what I love to talk about. It's like, what is your dream? What's the big goal? If I was talking to you, Lisbeth, it'd be like, what does Lisbeth want to do in 10 years from now? What are the big things? Do you want, what are the, I mean, whether it's, and I mean all of it, your professional dreams, your family dreams, your hobbies, everything. And that's what I do. And so we have those discussions and find the best ways forward because
Yeah.
anything's possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about community? So one of the things that you teach about is how to nurture community to be able to grow self, to be able to grow financially, to be able to have that abundance. How does community relate with all of those things? Because I've never really heard of a mindset coach. Can I call you a mindset coach? Is that,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah? Okay. All right. I've never heard of a mindset coach talk about community and using community as a vehicle to propel yourself forward.
Well, you might say that that's what I learned in recovery when I changed my life around. That I wound up in the rooms of people with similar problems, and all we did was sit around and talk. And that common thread there was extremely important. But what I like to think of is like, I mean, we all are part of a community. We just are right now in this modern age. It's where we've come a long way from let's call it, the village, right? Back, imagine a village, and I think in my head of the, in the forest, a bunch of huts in a circle, and it's very, very tight and small, a little community, but of enough families and people that they have to survive together, right? You've got the people that build the huts, you've got the people that cook, the people that hunt, the people raising children, and all of these things. And in a community, we've all heard the saying, "It takes a village to raise a child." Well, it was a conversation I was having with someone where we took it a step further. It's like it takes a village to raise a village, because when we're in a nice tight community like that and aware of each other and what we're doing and what our challenges are and our problems and our milestones and our talents and everything else, that external input is extremely important. And I could go further and say that I've tried it the other way. I've tried the lone wolf stuff where I got this, I can do this myself, I don't need anyone's help. And I don't mean that like in a negative way. I was just kind of, it was my preferred way of operating. And then when I moved out of that and realized, like, gosh, I achieved a lot of success by myself. But once I got out of my own way and opened myself up to, constructive criticism, input, collaboration with people and stuff like that, it just exponentially improved my life. So community is really, really important. And like I say, I think we all crave that. I really do.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So let me ask you this, because I know a lot of people watching might not have had a childhood trauma, but now in their adulthood, they face roadblocks, they face setbacks. Is it possible that you can go through a childhood without trauma and then experience trauma as an adult and have those issues to get over?
Absolutely. Yeah, it
Yeah.
could have. Here's an interesting thing I learned about trauma, let's say. And this was from, let me give you a little bit of background here from a Navy SEAL a career Navy SEAL who, experienced war and all kinds of horrible things during his years of service. And when he got out or stopped, that career came to an end on a medical, broke his back. He's better now and everything's fine. But he was dealing with the classic soldier PTSD, these traumatic things. So he took it upon himself in his own journey to really, really deep dive into this stuff, and has since actually turned it into a career, and he's doing great. But something he said was really interesting, because you would think that, okay, a person who's, let's say, been to war, for years and years. This wasn't just a one or two tours. It was quite a while, seeing some graphic things. And I think we tend to compare our traumas, right? Like I might say like, well, yeah, I had a kind of a bad childhood, and then I made bad choices, but I didn't go to war and experience those things. So his trauma's got to be here compared to mine being here. But it turns out that it's all the same. If When you look into how our nervous system, physiologically, everything that's going on inside of us, including emotional and all that, it's exactly the same. And his biggest trauma in his life was when his dad didn't show up to a softball game, and
Yeah.
that superseded everything he'd experienced. So isn't it interesting? So I say all that to where you're absolutely onto something there, Elizabeth. Like whenever it happened in your life, however it happened, it could be, let's say we oh, how can I'm trying to think of an example that's not too graphic or something, but you might have driven past an ugly car accident 3 weeks ago and it affected you quite a bit. Well, that's your trauma. And the way it's affecting you personally is exactly the same as my 25 years of trauma has affected me.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot like pain, right? People have different
Hmm.
thresholds of pain. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
someone's pain is less than another. It just means that you have different thresholds of what you can tolerate comfortably, right?
It's all relative. And that almost points back to the community aspect, because it might be vastly different experiences, but the effect on us is the same, right? And that's where we can come together on that. Like you experience something totally different, and then I experience something, but we can meet, right? Where how this is affecting, like I'm sad and this affected me, or I'm having trouble working, or I'm having trouble sleeping, or whatever the effects might be, and that's where we come together on that.
Absolutely. And how do you usually work with people? And we're almost at the end of our Let's Talk here, but I would love for you to share how you can work with people. Do you work with them individually? Do you work together as a group? How do you structure your business around helping others get to that next level?
Oh, well, it always starts with a one-on-one conversation for sure. And then see, because there's different ways to go, again, depending on if we're talking business strategies, if it's, if it's your personal trauma, things like that. I do work with people one-on-one. And in the business coaching side, we have programs there's group coaching and there's one-on-one, and there's also a course, but that's specific to building business and revenue and things like that. On the stuff we're talking about, I do it one-on-one, but then find the resources that are catered to you. Like, for example, I was dealing with a client who had taken care of a spouse who had dementia for 4 years before they passed away. I haven't experienced anything like that, but we processed through, like we say it, or like we were just talking about, the trauma and the effects. But then I found the resources local to them, of where to go into group settings and other things like that, and find it's about finding the healthiest way forward for the individual.
Okay, perfect. That is absolutely beautiful. And the best way to find you is on your website, which the information for that is at the scroll at the bottom. And Arthur, I hope this is not the last time we sit down on Let's Talk on Houston City Beat to discuss things of relevance to people in the community, because it's important to release yourself from things that bind you and be able to live a happy and successful life. That's why we're here, right?
Exactly right. I think Houston has proven time and time again that we stick together around here, and that's absolutely what we do. And that applies to everyone everywhere, but absolutely, I'd love to do this again.
Especially to Houston. Well, yeah, that's right. Well, thank you, Arthur. I had a wonderful conversation with you, and I look forward to doing this again.
It's my pleasure. Have an awesome rest of your weekend.